The project I'm working on for the Textile Biennial is an exhibition based here at the Haworth Art Gallery, and I'm working with the Gawthorpe Textile Collection, which is a fantastic collection of textiles from throughout history and from all over the world. I've decided to look at it through 4 different fabrics: linen, wool, cotton and silk. I was involved with the British Textile Biennial last time it was on in 2019. This year, the themes are movement, migration, really looking at the globalisation of cloth, the globalisation of textiles. This really fits in with a lot of the research that I do that looks at clothing and textiles in the past and the stories that they can tell us, whether they're global stories or whether they're local stories. So I was really excited to be involved to a much greater extent this time around. What I'm doing at the moment is really refining the object list. I'm working with the curator at the Gawthorpe Textile Collection, Rachel Midgley. So she's being a huge help in terms of just helping me get my head around the huge amount of pieces that they have in the stores. And also the stories, of course, that go along with those, whether it's the acquisition stories or whether it's the stories of the actual textiles themselves, where they're from, where they were made, who made them, those kinds of things. These are just some of my favourites that I want to have in the show. I love them so much. I just don't think the majority of people would think that these are 19th century fabric samples.
No, I think people expect to see sort of like some pale kind of backgrounds, some florals, some kind of quite demure prints, and these are just very much not that at all.
And the intensity of the colours, because by this point they're using the new chemical dyes that are being developed. So we see the story of technology here as well.
Yeah, so these purples that you see here, these really kind of like intense colours of like purple and kind of magenta colours, they were some of the kind of first aniline dyes that were produced just to get this kind of strength of colour and then have it actually last in that kind of intensity. That was the kind of really amazing thing that they were able to do. Most people's kind of experience of wool is kind of woolly jumpers, thick warm jumpers and thick coats, and this kind of just boggles their mind to see this kind of lightweight sort of almost like sheer dress fabric that's made out of wool. So these were actually made in a little place called Sabden, which is about 5 miles away from where we are now. Who knows where these were intended to end up, but there are other samples in the sort of set that we have which were actually specifically intended to be exported to India. So they were designed to be very cool to wear but also very fashionable fabrics, and they would have been marketed to the sort of British people living in India.
It's so interesting. You've got this hyper-local story that feeds into all of these much wider stories about colonialism, the British Empire, movement, migration, all linked to somewhere that's just about 5 miles away. These are perfect. They're so good. I really, really love this kimono. I think it will work really well with some of the other pieces we've got.
Yeah.
Some of the motifs fit in really well with some of the Chinese silks.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also I think there's an almost a sort of aesthetic crossover with some of the 18th century European waistcoats.
Yes. Yeah.
So that would work really well. I've come here to the Haworth Art Gallery today to meet with Gillian so she can tell me a bit more about the history of this building itself. So this building was built in 1909 and it has real strong links to the cotton industry in this area, doesn't it?
Yes, the building has strong links to the cotton industry through William Haworth, who had 2 weaving sheds in the town, Skatecliff Mill and Melbourne Mill. He had this built for his retirement for himself and his sister Anne.
In the actual bones of the building itself, you can see the links to the cotton industry, especially the stained glass. Can you tell me about some of the motifs in the stained glass?
I can. In the coat of arms for Accrington, we've got the images from the textile industry, the shuttle for the weaving industry, and printed cotton, for which Accrington was famous for, and can be seen in some of the objects in this room, like this wood block. And secondly, in the stained glass windows, we have lots of hand-painted references to the cotton industry. Images of cotton, images of flax.
It's just remarkable, the pictures just in those stained glass windows. You know, all of this history. I'm really interested in this relationship between the local and the global. And, you know, the labour history here, the industrial history here that we can see all around us, but how that also affected people in other parts of the world, either through consumption, through trade, forced migration, the enslavement of peoples, and how that has implications right back here in Accrington.
The majority of our population are migrants here, and it's good to tell those stories so that everybody feels included when they come here.
So I really want people to leave this exhibition with an understanding that history impacts the way that we do things today and the way that we think today, and often the way that we live today as well. I'm really hoping that it's going to shine a spotlight on the textile heritage of the area.